What's up, Pickers? Welcome into the Pickswise NFL show. We got the playoffs going on. I'm your host, Rachael von Oranje. And before we get into it, I want to let you guys know about a chance to win some free AirPods. And I know that you want them because those are all the rage right now. All you have to do is simply like this video, comment down below, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and that's all you got to do. It's that easy. And you can have some free AirPods, all right? So do that now before we get into it. As always, I am joined by my lovely co-host, Jeff Reinebold, and we have a special guest this week. It's Drew Dinsick, aka the Whale Capper. Guys, how are y'all doing?
Doing great.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic weekend of football coming up. Cannot wait.
Yes, I'm so excited. I love your enthusiasm. Drew, I got to know, though, before we get into it, the Whale Capper. How did you get this name?
Well, back in the day, when I wanted to start a Twitter profile and start sharing my picks and information, I thought it would be better to be anonymous because I didn't know eventually I would be doing media and things like this. And so I wanted to pick a nickname that I had in college. I was a swimmer back in college, and they used to call me the White Whale. And so I figured, I'll go with the Whale Capper. And, didn't realize or didn't think too much at the time. There's a lot of funny, connotation about being a whale in sports betting. It's not all good, but that's fine.
Right. Yeah, I totally thought it was going to go a totally different direction, but I love that. We have the White Whale on our show, and I'm so stoked to get into it. So before we give our best bets for the conference championships, we always do this each episode, Drew. Jeff and I go over our bets from last week, or we talk about the games from last week, right? So Aaron Rodgers, he slayed the Rams. The Bills, they dominate the Ravens. Tom Brady avoids a season sweep by the Saints. And we learned that anything can happen. If you haven't heard that enough already this week, you're hearing it again right here. Especially when you're Andy Reid, right? With like the gutsiest play call you'll probably ever see to end a playoff game with a backup quarterback. But I digress. The Chiefs, they beat the Browns, right? So Drew, Jeff, I'll start with you first, Drew. What stood out to you the most about the divisional rounds?
Man, Tom Brady succeeding in spite of the coaching. I thought the Buccaneers' game plan was poor. I thought their offensive strategy, sequencing of play calls, was not great. Yet Tom Brady was able to overcome a lot of that. And you can hang some of that on the fact that the defense turned the Saints over 4 times. That was obviously huge in swinging momentum in that game. But just in general, Brady getting to this point, getting to the NFC title game in his first year in Tampa Bay is wild. And doing it without really much help from the coaching staff is pretty cool to see. And then, other major takeaways, Green Bay clearly a class above the Rams. That was never really a very close contest. Similarly, didn't love the way that the Ravens looked in that one. The wind obviously pretty clearly disrupted anything that they wanted to do in the passing game, and then the Bills were able to cheat up and disrupt the run. And then Lamar with just a back-breaking interception in the end of the third quarter there that really put the game out of reach for them was a tough watch. I had a lot of Ravens futures heading into that game, a lot of equity that I had built up from buying low on them mid-season when it looked like they may not even make the playoffs. Didn't get to realize much of that because I really needed them to get to the AFC title game. So that was a really disappointing one. But the Browns covering the spread, even though they were down 19-3, fumbling through the end zone at the end of the first half. That play, I was crushed. I thought there was no chance that the Browns were going to be able to get inside the number after we saw that go down. But they fought hard. Baker Mayfield is the real deal franchise quarterback of the future for the Browns. That was cool to see. And a lot of questions now as we head into championship weekend about what Pat Mahomes' physical state is going to be. Is he going to be able to do it in wake of the concussion protocol that he's in? And even maybe more importantly, and flying under the radar and a huge handicapping angle in the AFC title game, Pat Mahomes' foot. Is he going to be as mobile, as fast, as dynamic an athlete as we've seen in years past?
Yeah, those are all great points. Great points. I personally don't have any doubt. I feel in my heart Mahomes is going to play. There's no way in hell I don't think that this guy plays in this game, but it's something we definitely have to talk about. Jeff, what stood out to you about the divisional rounds?
Really, when you look at it, it was that old cliche of defense beats a good offense. And it didn't work out that way because the Ravens came in with a great defense and they couldn't get it done. Their offense was poor. And you can say Leslie Frazier schemed them and pencil whipped them. There was a lot of, to borrow a little bit of the Wales angle, there was a lot of pencil whipping going on in those playoff games because you know, Baltimore, once they couldn't run the ball, they didn't have an answer. And that's the biggest challenge with Baltimore, and why I would always stay away from them, is because when you're as one-dimensional as they are, it's hard. You get behind schedule, you get behind on the scoreboard, it's just almost impossible to throw the ball. You're hoping not that he makes a play with his arm, that he runs around with his feet. And I thought Frazier did a great job of adding extra rushers, so he had limited opportunities to get out of the pocket. I thought the Bills too played more inspired football than the Ravens did. The Ravens looked lethargic to me during the course of the game, and again, that's hard to believe that you would play that way in a game that meant so much. You know, Buffalo obviously onto the championship round, and that's a huge thing for everybody, all the Bills Mafia around the world. The pressure is going to continue to grow, though, and that's going to be really interesting. I talked to Cole Beasley today, and we were talking about him getting to the Super Bowl, and he said, I gotta get there. I mean, I think they really feel the urgency of the moment. Obviously, everybody in Chiefs Nation is holding their breath to see how Patrick comes out of the concussion protocol. This is where it's so different now, and this is where it's harder to bet on these kind of things, because it's not in Pat's hands. It's not in the trainer's hands. It's not in Andy's hands. It's in the hands of a neutral physician. So he's got to pass his concussion protocols. But I also agree with Whale in that, dude, if you've ever had turf toe, that is a debilitating injury. Now, I know they'll shoot him up, but his ability to move and extend plays and create outside the pocket is such a big part of their offense. So even if he does play, I got to believe they're going to take a little bit of a hit offensively. I was just like, during our broadcast of the game, I said, it's Aaron Rodgers' world. We're just living in it, man, because he is so at ease during a game. I mean, they come to the line of scrimmage, and he's smiling at the defense. And this is the best defense, quote, the best defense in football, who had no answers for some of the formations and plays that the Packers ran. I'm a little light on the Packers in that, you know, Devontae Adams is going to get his, Robert Tonyan is going to get his, Aaron Jones is going to get his. But Lazard is just too inconsistent a catcher for me. Like, he could have had another one early in the game where Rodgers hit him right in the hands and it clanked off of him. So, you know, both he and Scanling, I think, are kind of, you know, they're tough to play when you look at this game. I thought the Packers were more physical up front than the Rams. That's amazing when you consider the Rams defense has even though he's injured, Aaron Donald. If you're buying Jared Goff stocks, you better sell, because that was just, again, an indication of what he is not capable of doing. He can't take a team and put it on his back like the great quarterbacks can and win. You know, Brady's going into he's won twice as many championship games as the next guy below him. Joe Montana has won half as many, and he's going for, this will be his. I saw a statistic today, in 18 full seasons in the NFL, because he had an injury season. His rookie season, he threw 3 passes. This is his 15th time in the championship round. That's freaking unbelievable. I thought really it was kind of a redemption story with the Bucs, because you saw Leonard Fournette, a guy that got tossed away in Jacksonville. They said he's too fat. They said he's not serious about the game. He comes late to meetings, all this kind of stuff. I thought he was the catalyst. Both he and Rojo were the catalyst that got the Bucs over the hump, along with that defense. And what did we say last week, Rachel? We said it's going to come down to turnovers in that game. And Drew made them, and Tom didn't. And so Tom moves on, and Drew is probably headed into retirement.
Yeah, I think Drew is definitely headed in retirement. And as a Falcons fan, I'm totally A-okay with that. But I sold all my stock in Jared Goff. All my Jared Goff stock is gone that I had earlier this season, and I invested it in Buffalo plastic tables, like companies selling plastic tables in Buffalo, because Bills Mafia, I could hear them cheering all the way over here in Houston, Texas. It was so loud when they won, man. It's fun to watch, and I'm really excited about these matchups that we got coming up. So let's go ahead and get into it, guys. Reminder, really quick, it's your chance to win some free Apple AirPods. All you have to do is like this video, comment down below, and make sure that you subscribe to the channel. It's the easiest expensive thing you will ever get in your entire life. So just go ahead and do it. Why not? What do you have to lose? All right, so let's go ahead and get into the NFC Championship game, guys. We have Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. And let's all just take a moment really quick to just appreciate the greatness that is going to be on the field in this game. We don't know how many more times in the future we're going to get to witness something like this. So just like last week with the Saints and you had Drew Brees versus Brady, let's appreciate Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. It's going to be stellar, okay? There's potential to light up the scoreboard a million times. So let's talk about the spread here. Early money has come in for Tampa, moving the Packers from 4-point favorites to 3.5-point favorites. The point total is set at 51. Now, the Packers, they beat the Rams 32-18 at Lambeau. Aaron Rodgers, he had no problem against one of the league's best defenses, throwing 296 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, the Bucs, they avoided a season sweep by the Saints. They won 30-20, regardless of whether or not they were created or they were gifted. The Buccaneers defense got 4 turnovers off of the Saints offense. And if that wasn't bizarre enough for you, there was even a rare Tom Brady rushing touchdown in this game, okay? So the Bucs, they were just too good for the Saints, and that's all she wrote. Now, guys, the one time Aaron Rodgers didn't look like a bad man this season, the one time he really struggled this year was against the Bucs. But here we are, fast forward to January in 2021, and both of these teams look and are playing very different than they were at that time, okay? Plus, this time the game is in Lambeau. Drew, I'll start with you. What do you like about this game?
So I understand why the market is moving a little bit in favor of the Bucs. Obviously, there's a lot of people that look at Brady and the run he's on and think, hey, this is, he's got it. He's got the magic touch. He's going to find a way to win this game. There's a lot of people that run power numbers, that run math models, that are seeing Green Bay, number 1 offense, number 10 to 12 defense. Tampa Bay, number 4 offense, number 5 defense. So there's not a huge gap between these two teams from a number standpoint. And in fact, if I were to make a line on a neutral field, in a neutral situation, I would probably have it pretty close to a pick'em. I'd have Green Bay maybe favored by a little bit, but not much more than a pick'em in that one. And I think you have to respect the fact that it's in Green Bay. You have a team from Florida heading up to the frozen tundra of Lambeau. That's never easy on the, just your body's never perfectly equipped for that sort of adjustment on the fly. Tom Brady obviously has played many, many games in January in cold weather, so he should be perfectly fine. But the rest of the guys may see a little bit of adjustment period getting going here. And then similarly, this is the 3rd game in a row for the Buccaneers on the road. Jeff mentioned that, the Ravens looked a little lethargic last week. Possible that was because that was their 3rd game in a row on the road. It's tough to travel week in, week out, especially this time of year. And so there is some potential for fatigue to creep here and for the Buccaneers, and I could see, a slow start for these guys. On top of that, you have Matt LaFleur, who has been pretty clearly the class of the NFL now, going on 2 seasons in the scripted portion of the game. His first 15 plays have been superlative in almost every matchup that we've seen the Green Bay Packers take on so far this season. And even in the first matchup, which the Packers lost 38-10, Green Bay was excellent in the first quarter in that game. If they don't have a stall out in their first red zone trip, they're up 14-0, and maybe that game looks a lot different. Similarly, the pick 6 obviously flipped momentum in that game, and I think you can pretty much throw everything out after it was 14-10 because the Packers more or less packed it in. But reasonably, the likelihood that the Green Bay Packers come in with a good game plan that is sharp, that is passing focused early on, I think is high. Tampa Bay has an excellent run defense. I don't think that you're going to see a guy as smart as Matt LaFleur run into the teeth of that defense early on here. I think it's going to be a rhythm passing game, quick ball out of his hands quickly, attack through the air. Devontae Adams may get 5 to 10 targets in the first half of this one. And I think it'll work, honestly, because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, while they're good, they're aggressive, they can take away the short stuff. They don't do quite as well when you attack them over the top or you hit them in the intermediate to deep part of the field, especially along the sidelines, which is exactly, where Aaron is kind of makes his money. I mean, that's his bread and butter. So I would expect that, Green Bay gets out to a hot start in this one. I like them in the first quarter. I like them in the first half. And then the entire rest of the game breaks down to Can Tampa Bay answer? Can they come back from a deficit? Now, I think they have the weapons to do it. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game overall. I think the over 51 is in play. And I think the over 51 can get there even if Green Bay defense shows up and holds Tampa Bay down over the duration of this game, because Green Bay is capable of scoring 40 points. We saw them do it against the Titans. We've seen them do it a number of times this year in games that were lopsided. But Green Bay's defense has been giving up a lot of garbage time points, a lot of second half points. They don't slam the door. And, the fact that Tampa Bay's run defense, I think, can stop Green Bay from playing keep away, will give them the opportunity to answer by scoring. So I think the best way to attack this game is over 51. But Green Bay getting out to an early lead, first quarter, first half, makes a ton of sense to me as well.
I love that. And I've recently gotten more into betting on the first half of games, like who has the lead, the spread and stuff. So I really like what you had to say about Matt LaFleur and how well scripted he is within the first 15 plays. That's something bettors definitely need to look at. Jeff, coach, how do you see this game going?
It's interesting that Whale talked about LaFleur and the opening 15, because for Tampa, it hasn't been that way. It's been a struggle early in games. And so, in playoff football, momentum is so critical, especially if you're a road team. You've got to stay with the home team. And you're talking about now, this is a team, and we've talked about the weather a lot over the course of the season. It's supposed to be somewhere around freezing in Green Bay with a chance of snow. It's not the snow that is the biggest concern to me. It's wind and cold. And Tampa Bay is a team that this year, in all of their 16 regular season games and their playoff games, has never played in a temperature below 60 degrees. Below 60 degrees. They're going to be out there. You fly in the night before. You go to the hotel, they don't have a walkthrough. The first they're going to feel that cold is when they get on the bus and they go to the stadium. And I'm going to tell you, if you've ever been in Green Bay, Wisconsin at this time of year in that stadium, it is awful. And, you can't even describe what it's like. Tampa, as a football team, historically has one playoff game below 40 degrees in the history of the franchise. So everything that way would indicate that this is going to be a big change. And, obviously Tom has experience in it. Gronkowski has experience in it. They've got guys who played in college in cold weather. But your body acclimates itself to the weather that you're in on a daily basis. And they're in Florida. So as Aaron said before the last game, that they like the cold. They welcome the cold. They're used to the cold. They live in it. It's their environment. Now, obviously, I think with more people in the stands, it would certainly be even a bigger advantage to the Packers. I think when you look at the game that they played the last time, I would throw that completely out, because it was such a one-off. You're talking about a quarterback that has thrown 45 or 48 touchdown passes against 5 interceptions on the course of the season. 2 of those interceptions came in one game. So his ability to protect the football, which is the number one most important factor to me in terms of playoff football, you've got to take care of the ball. Nobody takes care of the ball better than Aaron Rodgers does. And that is a distinct advantage in my mind, because Tom will put it into traffic and Tom will throw it up. And we saw it in the game the other day. He'll put it up there, but you got to make your plays when you get an opportunity. Saints had a couple times they could have completely changed the narrative in that game had they made plays on balls that they had. Vita Vea is coming back for the Bucs, and that's big, because that's another big body inside with Ndamukong Suh to help stop the run. I think that Wales' observation about the way that they'll use Aaron Jones is really, really important, because I don't see him doing an awful lot of the static zone play that they've become known for. I think they'll get him out of the box. They'll get him out in the flat. They'll make the linebackers cover him. He's such a weapon. All that said, and you factor in number one receiver in my mind in the league, and I like him a little more than Diggs and Devontae Adams, because he has to do it with less help around him. I just don't trust Allen Lazard, and I just don't trust Scantling. Scantling averages 20 yards a catch, but I'm telling you, he fights the ball so bad. And these are big games, and these are young kids playing in big games for the first time. All that said, I think the 51 I was actually surprised when I saw the 51. I thought it would be 55 minimum. So I would play the over, and I'm going to take the Packers in this. I think their defense is good enough. Their defense isn't great, but their defense is good enough. The one thing their defense can do with those Smith brothers at outside linebacker, they can rush the passer, and they do get turnovers, and those two things are critical in playoffs.
So, Jeff, are you taking the Packers to win money line, or do you have them covering 3.5?
I think they'll cover 3.5. I really do.
Okay, all right. So you sleeping on Brady again? You always do this to me. Where
it's funny. It's OJ. You talk about that, and it's really true, right? You said you never bet against an angry Tom Brady. Right. One of the things I know, and I remember the first time I saw it was when he was sitting in the green room at the NFL draft, and he slid, and he was the only guy left in the green room. And he had that look on his face like somebody's going to pay for this. He's got a chance. He's playing for his legacy too, right? There's only been one quarterback in the history of Green Bay that's won 2 Super Bowls, and that's Bart Starr, the only guy.
Wow.
Brett Favre never could. He replaced Brett Favre, and in his heart, he wants to be remembered as the best quarterback that ever played in Green Bay. And at 37 years old, you don't get a lot of chances. So I think he's going to be on fire in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is definitely going to be on fire, and he is scary. It is terrifying to me. I can't imagine being an opposing defense, and Aaron Rodgers is sitting there, and he's looking at you, and he just smiles because he knows what you're doing. And he's like, okay, I got this matchup, it's just like his confidence is creepy to me almost. And I don't know, it is terrifying. But I look at whenever they played last time, 10-38 was the score. Aaron Rodgers had 2 interceptions, 0 touchdowns, 160 yards, and they somehow held the great, who Sammy Coates earlier this season told us was the best route runner and the best wide receiver in the NFL. And I think everybody else agrees he's probably the best wide receiver right now in the NFL. They held him to, 61 yards? 6 receptions, 61 yards. Like, that also is kind of scary. And I do not put as much credence into the weather as other people do, because even if these guys, like Tom Brady, right, played in Foxborough forever, we know that he knows how to play in the cold. A lot of these dudes went to college in cold places, or they're from cold places. And I've always been told that whenever that adrenaline kicks in and you're out there on the field, you don't feel it as much. So the wind is something I would look out for, but as far as it being 29 degrees, which is what I'm reading it's supposed to be, I don't put that much credence in this. This is going to come down to, in my opinion, Bruce Arians realizing that he doesn't have to risk it to get the biscuit. You can get the biscuit without too much risk it. And I just don't want to see coaching ruin this game for them. I don't want to see Tom Brady get behind and have to put the ball in the air 40 times. Because as we said earlier, especially this year, he will turn the ball over. And that's whenever you start to see him get flustered, his face turns red, and then everything just seems to go downhill from there. I think that the Buccaneers will never make the mistake again of running the ball 5 times in one game. It's not going to happen. I think Ronald Jones is just a bad man. And that 2-headed beast that they have at running back is going to help them control this game. The team just looks different. The Buccaneers look so much better right now than they did when they destroyed the Packers earlier this season. Everybody's coming to full form. I don't know. I have the Buccaneers. Obviously, I think they're going to win. So obviously they're going to cover. And I think we all agree on the over here. So it's definitely going to be a fun one for the ages to watch. And I'm just glad that it's happening in my lifetime and I get to watch it. So there you have it, guys. That's everybody's picks. Now, really quick, because it was so long ago, we've talked so long about it. Drew, what was your pick on this game again? I know you had the over.
I have the over. I like Green Bay in the first half. And honestly, if Tom Brady's down 14-3 at the end of the first quarter, you're going to get a nice opportunity to come in live on the Bucs. You're going to get plus 7.5 live, something like that. It'll be very worth your while to, I think, back a Brady comeback opportunity, because I think most likely, I think the team with the ball last wins in this one. I do think it's Brady's capable of a comeback if they're down. I just ultimately, Packers they're just a better team, and the home field advantage it's going to matter at some point.
For sure, it does. And nobody knows more about a Tom Brady comeback than the Pickswise NFL show's resident Falcons fan. So, yeah, that's never. Look, the game just is never over until it's over. Okay. Now, producer Ben, who, by the way, is a diehard Packers fan, so I'm very happy for him. He put some notes in here before we close out the section. I just want to throw in there. Antonio Brown, as of today's Wednesday, is considered day to day. I do think he's going to play. That's just the vibes that I get from around the league. And, he may not be a huge factor in the game. Who knows? But, I mean, his presence out there does do something to opposing defenses. Green Bay, 11-0 straight up when they don't turn the ball over. 3-3 straight up when they have at least one turnover. Now, the Packers are 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 playoff games. So, just a few notes for bettors to take heed of, okay? Guys, let us know in the comments below who you like in this matchup. Who's going to get to the Super Bowl? Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady? It's kind of a bummer that this just can't be the Super Bowl in itself. All right, guys, before we get into the AFC Championship, be sure, I just want to tell you guys, you have a chance to win some free Apple AirPods from PicksWise. All you got to do, simply like this video, comment down below, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's that easy, so just go do it, get it done, and win some AirPods. All right, guys, let's talk about the Bills at the Chiefs at Arrowhead, obviously, one of the best home field advantages in the league, if there is one to be found in this Corona Apocalypse 2021 season. As of Wednesday today, the Chiefs are 3-point favorites, and the point total is set at 53.5. Now, the Bills, they got it done against the Ravens, 17-3. Despite the win, Josh Allen, he had 206 yards passing and 1 touchdown, and that's all great and everything, but what actually got it done, I think, was the Bills' defense, right? More specifically, their run defense, which is supposed to be their weakness. But I digress. They held Lamar Jackson at 34 yards rushing. They forced him to beat him with their arm, and that's all she wrote. That's all it took. Now, the Chiefs, they lost Patrick Mahomes to injury, but they got it done with Chad Henne in the end. And as I said in the opening segment, Andy Reid, big guts. And I don't mean that in a upset type of way. I was going to say something else, and then I was like, no, don't say it. Okay. But no, I mean, it was awesome. It was fun to watch, right? Now, Jeff, Drew, let's talk about this game with the expectation that Pat Mahomes is going to play, because if he wasn't going to play, if he doesn't play, I think the entire world is going to probably go with the Bills in this one, is what I would assume. But we're going to talk about this with the expectation that he will play in this game. He had a concussion, injured his toe, but nobody thinks he won't play. So do the Chiefs pull off that ever so evasive, elusive repeat to the Super Bowl, or is it Josh Allen in the Bills season to make an appearance for the first time in a long time? I don't know. I was like an infant. So it's been a long time. Who do you like in this game? I'll start with you, Drew.
It's tough to doubt the Chiefs. It's tough to doubt Mahomes and Andy Reid. Best quarterback coach combo in the league, and it's not close. They ought to be and rightfully so. Favorites in this game, proverbial favorites to win the Super Bowl. It all makes sense. It checks out given what we've seen, how we've seen them play this year, and notably their ceiling. Like when everything's clicking, when everything's going right, this team is out of this world good. Now, I don't expect to see them at their ceiling in this game. Part of that is because of the opponent. The Bills are absolutely, not the ideal matchup for this team. In fact, there's so many similarities between these two squads, not just the way that the team is comprised, their strengths, their weaknesses. It's a very, there's a very small difference between these two teams in reality. And the fact that the Chiefs are, only 3-point favorites here is really only because they're the home team and they have a nice crowd, and and they have the legacy of having just won the Super Bowl, whereas we see Josh Allen wins his first playoff game this year. So in general, the market and the way it's shaped right now makes sense. I do think eventually this goes to Chiefs -3.5 across the board once we have 100% confirmation that Mahomes goes. But I still lean Buffalo in large part because I do think the foot injury to Mahomes is going to be a bigger deal than really the market is synthesizing right now. Pat Mahomes has in the playoff run last year, in all the way through this year, when the going got tough, when it was third down and medium to long, when they were one score up at the end of games, very, very often Andy Reid's go-to look on third down was, we're going to clear out one half of the field and we're going to give Mahomes the choice. Attack down the field if his man gets separation, or use his legs and get the first down on the ground. And Mahomes is one of the best kind of scrambling quarterbacks across the league. He did it with perfection last year in the playoffs, this year throughout the entire season. And if his foot is limiting him, if the turf toe is as big a deal as we think it could be, then this line's not correct. This should be closer to a pick 'em because that absolutely neutralizes the ceiling of these two offenses. Now, I think the reasonable way to attack this is probably to play under 54 in this game. That's a high total. The Chiefs defense is pretty underrated by the market, I would say. They're not as good as they were during their run to the Super Bowl last year, but they're good. They have talent. They have some of these guys, especially in the secondary, are stepping up. We have seen the Buffalo Bills take a meaningful step backwards in their offensive efficiency in the playoffs relative to what they were at the end of the regular season. You know, down the stretch in the regular season, this Bills team was hanging 40 points on everyone, and they were making it look easy. And either because of the higher intensity of the playoffs, the nerves, or because they're just going up against better defenses, Josh Allen and company aren't scoring 40 points a game anymore. It's been a lot harder for them to move the ball efficiently and put points on the board. And I think that you see, nerves in general in this game because you have two pretty young teams. And so first half under makes sense given the current number. I can see a scenario play out here where the Chiefs get it done ugly early and are up similar to last week. They're up heading into the second half. They have a 2-score lead or more, and it's on the arm of Josh Allen to come back in this game and to make the passes to get them, give them a chance to win. I ultimately don't know that he's capable of doing that at this young point in his career, and so I'm not eventually going to get involved in the side likely here unless this goes way out of control and it's like Bills +4 or something like that. Because ultimately, I do believe in the Chiefs going through to the Super Bowl, but the under I think is the correct way to attack here, and if this looks the way I expect it to look in the first half, you'll know, and you may get a nice opportunity to back a second half over if the Bills are in comeback mode and they're just throw, which would, obviously, put scoreboard pressure on overall and put some pressure on that total. So I think the plan here is first half under, second half over, and then just in general, I think this should be closer to 51, not 54, given the potential Mahomes foot injury.
Wow, you look at all the talent on these two teams and the gunslingers that you have at quarterback here, and Andy Reid, and you have Stephon Diggs, who honestly, in my opinion, I could make a strong argument that he's like the MVP of the league this year because of what he has done, what he has opened up for that Bills offense, and just all the players you have, Tyreek Hill, Edwards-Helaire if he plays. I mean, Sammy Watkins. There's so much offense on. I would have thought you were going to come out the gate saying take the over, but that's kind of how my brain always works. Jeff will tell you I'm always about the over. I don't know why it's so hard for me to take the under, but people listen to him, not to me. Jeff, Coach, you got the X's and O's down. How do you see this game going? What are you feeling?
Well, it's really interesting when the Bills played last. They did not run the football. I'm talking about a called run, not a quarterback scramble. I'm talking about a legitimate called run until deep, almost to the end of the first half. And I don't think they can survive in this environment, putting that much on that young quarterback's shoulders. I understand they've got great receivers. John Brown is a good receiver. You mentioned Diggs. Diggs is an elite receiver. Cole Beasley's an elite slot receiver. Their tight ends are adequate. But I just don't think that in this kind of a pressure situation that Brian Daboll can do that again to his quarterback. And I know that they had one of their backs was out and the whole thing, but it appears to me like it's almost as if they're trying to create an image with what they're doing in the playoffs. And you go back to when they were really successful and really lighting it up earlier in the year, they would run it 12 to 15 times a game. And, Singletary's a better than average back. And, it was interesting in the game. I'm watching the game real close. And the reaction of the Bills offensive lineman when Daboll would finally call a run in the second half. And it was like they were it's like they got invited to a party. I mean, it was like a bunch of fat guys going to a cheeseburger party. I mean, and so I just think it's really, really interesting about this game. Not only the quarterbacks. You've got a quarterback that's been there, felt it, done it, if he plays. And then you got a coach who's been there twice, knows what it is, knows what it's about. And over on the other side, Sean McDermott has done a phenomenal job, but this is his first trip this deep. And for him, I think it's going to be really, really important that they do a great job coaching in this game. Both teams play great special teams. I think that's a wash. I think Kansas City's defense is better than people give it credit for. They play in the shadow of that offense, so nobody talks about them. But you've got playmakers on that side of the ball, and I particularly think this is a game where Tyrann Mathieu is going to really make an impression in the game. I wouldn't, again, when there's so much riding on the health of the quarterback, I would not play this until I knew exactly what was going to happen with him. And all the noise out of Kansas City is he's doing well. He's, Andy said, but Andy's not making the call. It's the neutral doctor that's making the call. And I do think that foot is going to be a factor. So I think Kansas City will win the game. I would take it as a pick'em game. And again, I think that I'm going to play the under too. I really do believe that Buffalo will press a little bit. Kansas City is going to get a few turnovers, and again, especially if Mahomes doesn't play, you better take the under, because I know anything's possible, but anything's also impossible.
Come on now, don't sleep on Chad Henne, Jeff. Don't sleep on him. No,
all I'm going to say is, when you were the backup to Blake Bortles, that doesn't speak well to me about your ability to play in big games.
Blake Bortles went to an AFC Championship game, Jeff. Don't be sleeping on the teenage
because
ninja.
He had Jalen Ramsey and Ngakoue and
Fournette, all them guys. Now, Jeff, really quick, I've been thinking about this a lot today. Okay, shower thoughts. You're talking about how the Bills, they're not running the ball, right? But almost nobody fakes the handoff more than Josh Allen in that Bills offense. Okay, the Bills are second in the league in running play action plays. Why is any defense still taking the bait at this point?
That's a good question.
Because linebackers are linebackers. They play linebackers for a reason, right? They are that. I mean, it's almost uncanny. And it's a great question. It really, really is. But I know from coaching those guys that you can tell them a million times, but they're going to do it every time. It's what linebackers do. They're wired that way. And you show them the ball and they're going to step at the ball. I mean, they're built that way. So I just really, when you talk about that Bills offense, last week they took a huge step back. They were, and again, I just watched the All-22 film of it. They were disjointed. And I know the wind played a factor. He missed a guy, he missed Diggs deep one time and probably would have hit him in other games. But, the Ravens really didn't do very much. They ran one front. They blitzed, I think, 3 or 4 times. It was just man-to-man against the receivers. And there was nobody that could create separation consistently, even Stephon Diggs. So if they're going to win this game, they got to play much better. And Josh can't turn it over. He can't revert back to that guy we saw last year in Houston where he tried to, pitch it over his head on the last drive of the game.
Yeah.
Right. All right, guys. Well, I will keep my analysis short and sweet. The Bills, they second in play action plays. The Chiefs, they're third. So
they don't run
see a lot of that. Yeah, exactly. So it's funny to me that at this point defenses still take the bait, but I digress. Now, I have the Chiefs winning this game mostly for this reason. So the Bills, they love to blitz, right? But they don't actually usually get to the quarterback. They're one of the lowest teams in the league as far as sacks. Now, I don't know what they are in pressures, but in numbers, they're pretty low in sacks. The Chiefs, alternatively, no one has a higher QBR against 5 or more players coming at him than Pat Mahomes. His QBR is 134.2. So that's enough for me. Like everything else, I know I'm going to see offense in this game. I know the quarterbacks are good, all that stuff. Like I get it, but this is for me. This is the X factor, and I just think it's going to be what ends up sealing the coffin for the Bills. But it's been a fun run, and I'm happy to see Bills Mafia have so much fun. Oh, and you guys are crazy for taking the under. I'm taking the over. I'm absolutely taking the over in this game. Like that's it. but that's just me. All right. So there you have it, guys. There are the picks on this game. Oh, by the way, producer notes on this game. Chiefs could be without without defensive back Rashad Breeland, as he has to pass the NFL concussion protocol. And the Chiefs, they could have Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Sammy Watkins back, but they're both right now listed as questionable. So the Chiefs are 0-8-1 against the spread in the last 9 games. The Bills are 9-1 against the spread in its last 10 games. So think about that as you're making your bets on this game. All right, guys, let us know in the comments below who you got. And also, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and share this video for your chance to win some free Apple AirPods, okay? Do it, and let us know in the comments below what you think. All right, guys, it's time for the Pickswise Lock of the Week, or the Pickswise Lock of Sunday. It's where we're going to give you our best bets that we feel the most confident about, and hopefully ones with some really good value attached to them as well. So I'll go ahead and start with the Will Capper, our guest of honor today. Drew, what do you like as your lock of the week?
I think the strongest angle this week is going to be taking Green Bay in the first half. I'm going to lay the 2.5 points. I think they get out to a fast start in this one, put some scoreboard pressure on Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, and they hold on for the win.
All right, there you go. Jeff, what do you got for your lock of the week?
Well, I'm going to stay with that game, but I'm going to go to the over. I love the over in this one. You got the most prolific offense in the league playing. They also scored the most points in the playoffs last week in the divisional round. So I think they're hitting on all cylinders. Plus, you've got another offense that over the last half of the season has really found its feet. And I think that the over is the play in that game.
All right, he's got the over. Well, as usual, I'm also going to take an over for my lock of the week, but my over is going to be with the Chiefs and the Bills. And look, earlier today, I'm looking up stats and everything, and I see that the Chiefs are one of the worst teams in the red zone. And as we talked about, neither one of these teams are really consistent at running the ball, right? And run heavy, if they were both going to run the ball heavy, I could see it, eat up clock, limit turnovers, all that good stuff. But these are gunslingers, okay? And they're adding even more pieces, getting more healthy pieces back to their offense for the Chiefs. I just see a type of game where it's probably like a 31-27 type of game. So the point total set at 53.5 right now. I'm absolutely taking the over. There's too much offense on the field for it not to go over, all right? So there you have it, guys. That's our Pickswise Lock of the Weeks. We hope to win you some money with that. Just to recap, Jeff is taking the over with the Packers and the Bucks. Drew is taking Green Bay to win the first half, and then I think he said he's taking them to win overall together as well. And I'm taking the over 53.5 points in the Chiefs-Bills game. So there you have it, Lock of the Week. All right, thanks, everybody. Thank you for watching our picks. Thank you for watching the show. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let us know what you got this weekend. I'm usually in the comments responding back to you guys. We really appreciate your interaction and we love it. Big thanks to always Jeff Reinebold. So appreciate you doing the show with me. I'm so sad that next week is probably going to be our last week. Breaks my heart, but I've had a great time doing it with you. And the Well Capper, Drew Dinsick, thank you so much for joining us today. You've been fantastic. Can you let everybody know where they can find you, your Twitter handle, all that good stuff?
Oh, yeah, sure. You can find me at whale_capper on Twitter. All my content gets posted there. And, once NFL season's over, we're going to roll right into NBA. So lots to look forward to.
Yes, we are rolling right into the NBA, and I'm excited for that as well. All right, everybody, enjoy the games. Please have fun gambling. For goodness sake, do it responsibly. And Jeff and I, and possibly a guest, will be back next week to preview the Super Bowl. So stay tuned, set your notifications, and cheers. Have a great week.